There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Well, good evening, boys and ghouls. Welcome to yet another edition of Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Mr. Tim Dennis. Good evening, Tim.
What up, dog?
So, I got schooled online here this week. I got an email from somebody referring to me as a dummy because I didn't realize that kryptonite is already actually on the periodical chart.
Really?
I never paid that close attention, and due to the fact that I'm 40 and it's been 21 years since I've been in high school.
Did you do the Conan O'Brien impression as you were reading the email?
Kryptonite is already on the periodic table.
Yes. Yes. So I was stood corrected. I guess they didn't just, even though all the newspaper articles were saying they just found what they believed to be real kryptonite, I was schooled quickly and told that kryptonite was already found. So I never said my news was new. Now we're going to talk about a brand new movie coming out this weekend that sounds exciting. It's called E.T. And it's, no, just kidding. Hey, I wanted to thank everybody for tuning into the show tonight and tuning in every week as they do. Wanted to remind you that we do have one of the most anticipated paranormal retreats of the year, and we're half sold out on it. These tickets are going fast. 3 fright-filled nights and 2 amazing days at one of the most haunted sites in the world, along with some of the most popular speakers in the paranormal field. We're going to be going out to Waverly Hills Haunted Sanitarium out in Louisville, Kentucky. We are only allowing 100 guests. Normally we have up to 200 guests at our events, and they're allowed to investigate one night. With our Waverly Hills event, there will be only 100 guests, and all of the guests get to investigate for 2 full nights. The place is huge. It's amazing, and you'll be broken up into much smaller groups to investigate the 5 major floors, along with our paranormal celebrities. We have John Zaffis, the godfather of the paranormal, probably one of the most well-known demonologists in the field. We have Patrick Burns from TV's Haunting Evidence, which returns, I believe, in June on Court TV. We've got the queen of the paranormal, Miss Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who will be joining us and leading one of the ghost hunts, along with Chris Fleming, and then our good friends Chad and Adrian from Terror Normal. And please check out their show at terrornormal.com. That's terrornormal.com. They have some amazing footage and finds from their Waverly Hills adventure, and you can actually watch the full-length episode right on their website. We have this available. It's a huge venue. We have smaller investigation teams. This is a chance of a lifetime. We've had so many people beg us to go out to these events and do a Waverly Hills. We've also acquired a special room rate with the Holiday Inn for just $84 a night, and those rooms either have 2 beds or 1 king with a pull-out sleeper couch. You'll get a confirmation code when you book with us. Again, we're half sold out. These are going to go fast. We'll also have mediums Tiffany Johnson and Chip Coffey on hand. They'll be doing mini readings. If you're interested, you can sign up for mini readings with them. You can hear the awesome talks by the speakers that we have that are going to be there, Charlie and Tina Mattingly, the owners. We're also going to be doing a live charity auction to help with the Restoration Fund to save Waverly. I'm going to put up a link for that as well, so that if you'd actually like to just donate to help save Waverly, you can do that, and the money will go directly to the Waverly Hills Restoration Fund. Also want to make sure to mention our good friends Jason and Grant from Ghost Hunters have a radio show called Beyond Reality. You can hear that show every week at 6:30 WPRO.com. Again, that's 630 WPRO.com. Check that show out. It is 8 to 10 Eastern time every Saturday night. And Jay and Grant kind of bring their sense of humor and their look at the paranormal to the radio now. And you can check them out every Saturday night and then follow it up every Sunday night with a visit here in the Darkness on the Edge of Town. We are going to kick it off here with our first guest, our only guest for the evening. This is a rarity. We usually, as you know, we like to break it up and have two guests on for the show. You have a guest for the first hour, a guest for the second hour to keep it fresh. But we've got a guest who's going to be with us. He's been with us in the past. Actually, I think we've only had Chris on the show one other time for a full hour, right? And then we've had him pop in and out a couple times to give us some feedback. So Chris Fleming, for those of you that are still living in a cave and might not know who this gentleman is, besides being one of the prettiest people in the paranormal, he is a very talented, sensitive psychic. He is one of the stars of the TV show on the biography channel Dead Famous, where he, along with his skeptical co-host Gail Porter, go to locations to try to contact the spirits of dead celebrities and get some final contact from them and find out what's gone on in their lives. He's able to tap into residual energy and sense what happened to them at some of these places, and also the search to just try to find these celebrities. But Chris has become a mainstay at our live events and has quickly become one of the more popular speakers. He's a great guy, very gifted, and one of his most popular talks is on developing your psychic ability. Now, we understand there are a lot of you that can't get out to the live events, so we wanted to have Chris on to share the next 2 hours with us to talk about different aspects of the paranormal and also talk to you about how you can develop your own psychic ability and learn to tune in to the dead and tune into the world around you, not just the dead, but learn how to become more sensitive to your surroundings and understand a little bit more about what's going on in your life. So, without any further ado, I'd like to welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town, Mr. Chris Fleming. Good evening, Chris.
Dave, Tim, how are you guys tonight?
Great. Thank you very much, and appreciate you coming back to spend some more time with us. Hey,
anytime.
Chris, like I said at the beginning of the show here, you've been one of the staples and cornerstones of our trips. It's been funny. People were very hesitant when we first started off the trips with TAPS that we would be including a psychic because, oh my God, TAPS is against psychics. And of course, as we had Grant on the show last week, we had him talk about that. And it's not that they're against psychics. They just say it's harder for them to quantify that on a TV show, a psychic's feelings, when it's not a show based on that. It works very well on your show, Dead Famous, along with Gail. You two really make a good partnership and are able to go out there and explore the paranormal together and do a totally different style show than Ghost Hunters. But that's why we brought you into to the events with us. And people have really enjoyed the talks that you've done, and I greatly appreciate the fact that you're willing to come on tonight and kind of share a little bit more of that in depth with us here tonight on the show. So let's get to that. Now, first of all, just for a quick reminder, let's tell people a little bit about, now, you started off with your abilities at a very early age.
Yeah. Actually, as a kid, having experiences, and, if we're going to talk about, using your sixth senses and abilities, I think it's very important for people to understand, you can't really just go into a classroom or you can't pick up a handbook unless you really know the fundamentals and the background, the experiences, and how to be conditioned to do that. It just doesn't happen. People might say, well, why should we listen to you? Why should they listen to me and talk about this stuff? And Dave, you and I have talked in the past briefly about some of my experiences, and I think it's important for people to understand, I had experiences as a kid since I was a child. Not just one experience, not just two, but many experiences. So how can I tell people about the sixth sense? How can I tell them to boost their intuition? I think if I share with you just a couple stories, you'll kind of start getting the idea of how I began to learn and became conditioned in understanding that we do have a sixth sense and that we're all connected in a sense where we can actually talk to spirits and talk to ghosts. I look back as a child, and it first started when I was about 3, 4, 5 years old. I started sensing that ghosts were around. I started feeling that something was there. And it's weird. It's like, well, how do you know you feel something when you can't see it? Well, I know it's not my mom, not my dad, not my sister. I would just have these feelings that someone's watching me, that someone's staring at me. Mm-hmm. And over time, there was someone standing right there. There would be a ghost right there. I ran into a room one time. My dad shut off the lights, and I was face to face with this solid figure. It was about the same height as me, and the moonlight was behind it, so I knew there was a physical entity that was there. And the weirdest thing is I didn't even move my lips. I just thought in my head that, please don't hurt me. I just want to get by to get into the bed. And all of a sudden, it's as if this thing actually read my mind and just glided backwards to allow me to pass. Wow. And I began to realize that, wow, this thing, I didn't hear its voice. I didn't move my voice. I didn't speak, but yet it completely understood what I had said. So I began to realize that they can read my mind.
Oh, okay.
You know, how can they do that? How can ghosts and spirits know my thoughts and understand my thoughts when I'm not even moving my lips? Because we all know that the only way to communicate really basically with human beings in third dimension is to speak. For me to talk to you, you to listen, and you to repeat it. Of course, I can write stuff down, but it has to be a physical type thing that we have to do.
Right.
And I guess over time, I started having, dreams that were coming true. I started having precognition. I'd be out with my friends. I remember we were in 7th grade. We're out on the street right by a sidewalk, and there's a stop sign there, and all of a sudden I grab my buddy's bike, and I pull him off the street. He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Get off the street now." And all of a sudden this car comes right around the corner, blows off the stop sign, and passes right where he just was. And if he was still there, he would have been hit by the car. And they're like, "How did you know that?" I said, "I don't know. I just sensed this feeling of danger, and that I had to move you out of the way." So it's, as a child and going through my teenage years, my early adult years, having these experiences, I just didn't say, "Wow, that was cool," wow. I would think about it. I'd start writing them down in a journal, start writing them down in my diary, and I would reflect back on it, like, what was I feeling at that time? What was I thinking? And I started realizing that there was a connection. There was similar feelings, similar emotions that kind of tied it all together.
Well, I'm curious now. You said something that's a little interesting to me. You said that you can communicate with the spirits through telepathy. Well, if we are really energy forms and we're able to do that, what keeps us from... I mean, you and I, we had a similar experience yesterday, right? I picked up the phone and started dialing you just as you were about to dial me. So we were right there, right? So then my question is, what is the buffer that keeps us from being able to speak together telepathically on a more open basis? Why can we do it through spiritual sides once we've crossed over and talk to you and read your thoughts and have the thoughts put into you? Why do you feel that there's got to be something that's like a barrier between us as living beings that's stopping that?
Well, it's basically a very, very good question, and something I can definitely address, because I've thought of that for the last 15, 20 years. And I have a basic, I've looked at the basic things in our own environment, and in my communication with talking spirits and their side, I have a great idea of how this works. If you take a look at, in our dimension, our third dimension, energy takes the form of mass. We are mass, but yet we know we are a form of energy. I can't go through that wall. I have to do physical things. My thought process, which we know thoughts are a form of energy, it goes throughout our body, goes to the brain, goes to the rest of the body to react. To get across the hall, I have to tell my rest of my body to get up, walk across the hall. I'm limited in this third dimension. We all have to follow those laws and those rules. When you die, you no longer, your brain doesn't go with you, but yet your mind does. Your soul and your spirit, your form of true energy, of which you truly are, does pass on. My understanding from all these years, communicating with them, watching them, experiencing them, even through EVP, even through using scientific devices to communicate, anything else to support my theory, is that energy on the other side is even faster vibration, a purer energy. And remember, thoughts are a form of energy. So thought is what you still are. Your mind is what you still are. You exist and you think. Anywhere you want to be, you're there instantaneously. Anything you want to know, before you're even done answering the question, the information is downloaded to you. Now keep in mind, this is when you cross over to the spirit realm, when you go into the spirit realm. There's many differences in between this physical realm and the spiritual realm. Spirits that are earthbound, ghosts that are still stuck here. Some of them begin to understand these principles, some of them don't. Some of them that haven't really grasped that concept or become familiar with that concept are still trying to accomplish things in the third dimension realm, which they're having great difficulty in doing. Yet sometimes, when they use all their energy, they can move a door. They can tap you on the shoulder. They can slightly manifest and then disappear. And they get frustrated. But yet, when they completely cross over, it's like they've gone back home, they fully developed spiritually that they're supposed to, and they completely understand how it works. So when we take a look at when I came face-to-face with that ghost understood the principle of communication based on thoughts and energy, Therefore, its energy read my energy of thought and completely understood what I was saying and trying to accomplish by getting past it.
Okay. Yeah, I've just been curious about that. I mean, it seems that in physical form that we do have those brief moments, that there is that telepathy when you're thinking of somebody and the phone rings and it's that person, and you think of, I had that brief psychic moment with my mom in January of 1988 when I kept driving past our street on New Year's Eve, sensing that she was being pulled out in an ambulance, and it turned out she had a massive seizure that night the moment I got home. How did I know that stuff? Why do you think the barriers are lower at those points than they are any other time?
Well, look at it this way. If we take a look, I want to give you an analogy, but I also want to explain your question. Okay?
Sure.
Picking up the phone, thinking about you, about to call you, and you're calling me. No different than if you're at a stoplight, you feel someone's staring at you, you turn and look, and someone's staring at you. No different than thinking of somebody and you run into them later on that day going, oh, my God, I was just thinking about you today. What is it that causes that? Well, I can't give you a 100% direct answer of why that happens.
Well, doesn't it, though, on the one thing, because I've heard you mention this before with the staring at each other in the car. Mm-hmm. I can't, I'm either the starer or somebody else is, it always seems. When you're sitting at a red light, you're always just kind of looking around outside of your environment. So isn't it easy to say that there's always somebody looking? Because,
So, but are you constantly turning your head around looking to see if people are watching you?
I might. Does that make me paranoid? Why would you say that, Chris? I don't understand. No.
You know what I mean.
Right.
The thing that I like to do, Dave, is I like to sometimes when I'm in a car and I come to a light and I pull up, I will stare at someone just to get them to turn to look at me.
Hey now.
Yes, but maybe it's because your face is pressed against the glass and you're licking it. That might be the reason they're looking back at you, Chris.
No. I try to turn the tables to just see if I can send my energy at them to get them to respond, and it's pretty cool when it happens.
How often do you say that actually works for you?
Well, I get pulled over a lot by the police. No,
yes.
I'm just kidding.
Mommy, that man keeps looking at me.
Well, no, we did an interesting thing is, I just started doing one-on-one workshops with people in using these abilities. When we were at the Stanley Hotel, there was a woman I was working with, and surprisingly, we saw an elk that was way out there in the distance, and I said, watch this, I want to show you something. And I stood through the window, and I'm staring at the elk. When within about 10, 15 seconds, the elk suddenly turns and looks right at us. And what caused that? Oh, could we say, perchance maybe there was something outside that created a noise and it locked on and thought that's what it was. But the thing is that it kept looking, and when I let go and then I had her do it, it looked back at her also. Then we saw this wolf that was walking. I think it was a wolf or coyote, and I said, watch this. And the wolf was eating, and then it was going the opposite direction. All of a sudden it stopped, completely turned around, and just stared. Animals tend to have a bigger sense of the sixth sense and ambiance because that is their environment.
Right.
They have to protect themselves from predators. Now, when they are in the jungle or when they're in a forest or whatever, they have to have a heightened sense of awareness, a really in-tune sixth sense, because if a predator is staring at them and sensing them, they have to be aware that someone else is there to survive. So what happens is that's why deers always look up, because they know someone's around, but they can't tell exactly where. When you have a human being, they can kind of tell. So what I did as a little test with this woman was I was doing this to the animals because I know that they're more sensitive than we are.
Right.
And it worked. And it was just trying to give my point that we can affect other people with our thoughts. So if we can affect other people, why can we not do a little bit different and receive it and acknowledge that receiving, such as knowing you're going to be calling me, such as getting a thought or pattern of communication from someone else. That is using your sixth sense, whether it's ESP or precognition. It's doing it in reverse.
All right. Well,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does completely, because, I guess I've always wondered, they say, and again, this is, where you start getting into the metaphysical mumbo-jumbo and what do you believe and what do you don't, and what's all nice and fairy and magical and what's reality is supposedly we're all connected to our loved ones through like a silver cord or a silver string, almost like a spider web. And it's that moment, and I had a very interesting talk with a psychic who described it to me this way. Imagine you're a spider sitting in the middle of your spider web, and all of the people that you know, depending on how well you know them, the sensitivity is larger. So moms, dads, kids, relatives like that are in the closer circle of the web, and then it spreads out. And once in a while, when you get that kind of just zoned out moment, when you're just quiet and you're kind of staring off into space, which I just think I need another shot of caffeine, she was actually saying that, no, what you're actually doing is you're kind of taking that moment and just going out through the web to see if there's any disturbance, to see if there's anything that you're concerned about, and then it brings it back to you. But that's how she said that's where I got the information about my mom being ill that night, was something was plucking that silver cord for my mom. And it was resonating with me, so it was like an energy cord just kind of playing in a loop until I acknowledged it. Do you feel that there's something to that, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's an interesting analogy because I've never heard that before, so I find that very interesting. What I've done is, what I try to do is, and people that know me, that work with me, I always try to use a scientific method to basically support my claims, support what I'm feeling and stuff, because I know it keeps me grounded, but it also shows people what's going on. So when I explain things to people, some of the stuff is pretty bizarre and pretty way out there stuff, experiences that I've had and communication I've had. So I can't really give that to you and have you digest it because it's pretty big. So what I do is I look at what do we already know that can't be denied, that can't be refuted. So we take a look at two things. One is we know the aspect theory experiment that was done in 1981 with a particle. Particles separated, put into two different containers. They went with a laser to move one of the particles, and simultaneously the other particle moved. It blew them away. They never expected this. That wasn't part of the experiment.
Right.
What they found out in short terms was that the entire universe is connected. Every single thing goes down to an atom, to a particle, to whatever you want to call it, is connected. So if we are all connected, therefore, in some way, shape, or form, there's got to be some type of connection and some type of possibility that we can all communicate amongst ourselves. I mean, whether that's some type of super Bluetooth or what, who knows? And then, Dave, the other thing is we've been talking about, like you said, was on the phone, with me, with the animals. We know that non-local communication does exist. When you take a look at fish, a school of fish are swimming in the ocean. All of a sudden, they all turn at the same time. Now, how can they're not connected physically, okay, except for what's based on the aspect theory experiment, but they're all communicating with each other to turn simultaneously. Same thing with a flock of birds. They're moving in one way, and they all move simultaneously. You get a group of people to try to do that, they'll be stumbling over each other.
That's true.
Species in our existence have figured out non-local communication, how to communicate amongst themselves without directly saying anything, without even looking in each other's eyes, even having their back to them. They can be, 50, 20 feet away, and they can still know exactly what they're thinking at that precise moment. It exists in our realm, and it exists even more powerful in the spiritual realm.
We're going to end on that note for right now, Chris, and take a quick break. You're listening to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Our guest is psychic sensitive Chris Fleming from TV shows Dead Famous. And as I mentioned earlier, we do still have tickets left for the Waverly Hills trip. If you're interested in that event or any of our other paranormal retreats, please check out our website at darknessevents.com. Again, that's darknessevents.com, or you can check it out at paranormaltrips.com. Either one will get you there, and you can see the list of upcoming events. We've got Eastern State Penitentiary, which is sold out, Waverly Hills, which is coming up in August, and we still have about 50 tickets left for right now. And then the final trip of the year that we have planned right now is to the return of the Queen Mary out in Long Beach, California. That is also about halfway sold out, so you're going to want to jump on those right away. We'll be back with more and more with Chris Fleming right after this.
Once you have seen Dave and Tim in the light, you'll understand why we must return to the darkness on the edge of town. Stay tuned. There is more to come.
For 58 years, Fate has consistently supplied its loyal readership with a broad array of true reports of the strange and unknown. Fate is a factual magazine containing articles by experts in all walks of life, and by others just like you who have something dynamic, significant, and truthful to say. Keep up with the latest on angels and miracles, psychic phenomena, ghosts, UFOs, archaeological hotspots, alternative science, and much, much more. To receive your free Fate magazine, call now at 1-800-728-2730 or visit our website at www.fatemag.com. That's 1-800-728-2730 or www.fatemag.com. What are you waiting for? Your fate awaits.
Are you tired of reading about what couple in Hollywood is breaking up or divorcing? Have you ever wondered where you can find the news that covers the subjects that you are really interested in? I would like to invite you to visit supernaturalnews.com. Supernatural News uses the latest internet technology to search for the topics we know you will be interested in reading. News of the latest Bigfoot, UFO, or Loch Ness Monster sightings. Read about the latest conspiracy theories and urban legends. Supernatural News, where belief and reality merge.
You hear footsteps and things bumping and banging in the middle of the night. Could it be paranormal activity? Or is it just Dave and Tim raiding your fridge?
Beer.
Strange things happen in the darkness on the edge of town.
Good evening and welcome back to the show. You're listening to Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio, and appreciate you doing that. I'd like to make sure to take a minute and give a shout out to Planet Paranormal, our online host for our podcasts, and it's a fantastic site. If I can recommend it to you, go to planetparanormal.com. There you're going to find not only our show, but you can also find many other paranormal shows that talk about every other subject. As a matter of fact, Chris has got a show on that same exact channel called Spirit Talk. I know on there's also Audio Martini Beyond Reality, which is the tap show that I mentioned to you earlier with Jason and Grant. You've got Darkness Radio, Fairy Path, Ghostly Talk, Haunt Hunters, Indigo Window, Lifting Your Veil, Magic Mind Radio, Night Watch, Paratalk, Spellbound, Spirit Talk, Spooky South Coast, and more. So please check out the website. It's free right now to listen to the shows. If you'd like, though, you can join up for membership, and for a small fee, you can get premium membership and get a lot more activity. It also gives you opportunity to be first on the waiting list for all Darkness Radio retreats in the future. If you sign up, that means you'll be one of the first people to get an email letting you know when the new Darkness Radio events are coming up, so you don't ever have to miss an event. Going back, so again, please check that out at planetparanormal.com for all of the best in Planet Paranormal's radio shows. You get to hear any variety there. There's always new episodes uploaded and some really great interviews. And again, you get to hear our friend Chris Fleming there with Spirit Talk. Chris, let's get back into the show tonight, though. Talk a little bit more. Now, first of all, let's mention a little bit about your radio show. You do that on a semi-regular basis, right? About once a month or so a new episode comes out?
Yeah, whenever I can get it out.
Okay. And
yeah, I try to do it twice every 2 weeks, but it's pretty much been every 3 weeks or every month.
And you've been getting some fantastic guest speakers on there, so it's a great opportunity for people to tune in. They're usually about an hour long, right?
Yeah, I would say it's anywhere from 30 minutes to about an hour long. And yeah, I've got about 4 or 5 already recorded. I just haven't cut them yet in GarageBand to get them out there.
Good deal. We'll get them out there so people can start tuning in and hear more of your shows. What do you have out there? You already have about 5 or 6 episodes cut, though, don't you, that you've already put up on the site?
I've got 7, yeah.
7. Excellent. Yeah, so please check that out again with our friends at Planet Paranormal. And please remember, too, with Planet Paranormal, it is basically a non-profit site. The lovely lady Beth that runs the site does it all on her own time, out of her own pocket. So by joining up and getting the premium membership for the small fee, you get a lot more content, and it helps to keep an excellent paranormal resource available and open to you. So check that out. Now, Chris, we were talking about psychic ability. Now, do you honestly believe, I'm a sales guy. I grew up doing sales since I was literally little. I woke up one morning and freaked out my family when they couldn't find me, and I showed up with a handful of $1 bills. I was out selling Lucky Rocks I colored with a crayon. So I've been doing that, and a lot of people say you're either born with it or you're not. And I do believe that, because I've watched people that just cannot get the knack for sales. For psychic ability, for sensitivity, do you really feel that we're all capable of doing what you do, or do you feel that it really is stronger and born more into some people, and some people just will never get it no matter how hard they try?
Well, I think, definitely on a spiritual level, we all have it. That's our only way of existence on the other side, is we communicate and we do all these things. The problem is when we come into this realm, we take on different paths, different destinies. We kind of pick and choose what we're going to be doing when we're here. So when we're here, it might be some of the guidelines of our destiny is to not be able to really tap into those things because we're supposed to be far away from that. I believe that the majority of people that are in the third dimension, that are on this planet, do have these abilities at some different level. Okay, some are going to have it more than others, just like we have some people that are incredible athletes and some people, like not even coordinated. That happens because that is a path that you've chosen, a lesson that you've chosen. But I believe, like anything else, though, is you can get better at it. You can get better at anything in this existence, so why wouldn't you be able to get better at something and become more in tune with something that is exactly who you are, and it's a part of your higher self on the spiritual world?
Now, do you believe it's just like a muscle, any muscle that needs to be worked and strengthened to get it stronger like that? Or do you believe that, a lot of these stories we hear, oh, yeah, I was in a car accident and I died and I came back and now I can see the future, or, I drowned in a pool and when I came back from the white light, I've suddenly had this ability. What causes that awakening, in your opinion? Or do you think that that's what opens that stuff up? Is something traumatic a lot of times, or is it...
Well, you said something interesting. You said muscle. When you say muscle, you're thinking of a physical part of our body. You're thinking of the third dimension.
Right.
These types of abilities have really nothing to do with the physical third dimension. It has to do with the all-knowing and all-seeing, which is on the other side. Now, why these people that have car accidents or near-death experiences come back with all these abilities is because when they come back, they have to bring something with them. And what they bring with them are the abilities and the power that they have on the other side, that is their complete self, because they have crossed over. And it's just like if you go to another country, you go somewhere, you always buy some type of novelty or whatever, and you bring it back.
Did you hear that, Tim? When you have a near-death experience, you get a souvenir.
Nice.
Yes. You see, what happened to me was when I died on the table, all I came back with was a T-shirt that says I died, and all I got was this crummy T-shirt.
Oh, you're killing me.
With two afterlife experiences, do you get fortune cookie?
Yes, very much.
Okay, that was a terrible analogy. No, but I think you get my point.
Right.
Is you bring something back with you because you're aware you're dead. You're aware that there's a spiritual world. So when you come back, because of your awareness, now you're not going to remember everything that happened on that other side.
Right.
But majority of it you are going to bring with you. That's why these people have come back and told some amazing stories. But if you look at all these stories, they all make sense and they're all similar, because everything on the other side is the same in the abilities that we have. Dealing with the thought, if you think about something, you're there automatically. Any type of information you want, it's downloaded instantaneously. We've got the internet here. Depending upon what type of service you have or modem or whatever, it could take really long to download, or it can be pretty quick. Nothing like it is in the spiritual realm. Well, as soon as you think of it, you're just bombarded with all this information to digest.
Well, that's where that's where some of the stuff gets sticky. And you and I have talked.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that are psychic. It's like the 70s. I have a black friend. We all have.
I've got psychic friends.
I've got psychic friends. I'm not insensitive.
Yeah, now it's like I have a psychic friend.
Yeah, exactly. So now we've got, I'm friends with you. It doesn't mean I always understand or believe everything that you're doing. And it's not that I think you're a liar. It's just that some of it is just so hard for me to wrap my head around.
Of course.
That to me it's like, God, what the hell? You got to be nuts. Do you ever find yourself now at the age of 32? By the way, Tim, let's take 2 seconds here for a quick happy birthday.
me.
Happy birthday to you. Okay. Happy birthday. Chris's birthday was a week ago, and we missed it for the show. So happy birthday. He turned 32 again for the 8th time. And he's going to stay there till he gets it right, I think.
That's right.
With this, gosh, I totally lost my train of thought. No, I've just,
See, you got ADD just as bad as I do.
I do. That's it. No, I guess what I want to know is you've been dealing with this since you were a child. So let's give it an age. You were 7 years old. So you've been dealing with this, 3/4 of your life now. Do you ever still at this age look back and go, "Am I nuts?"
No.
Okay. See, because I would wonder, seeing what you see. Do you?
No. Because it's not like it happened 1 or 2 or 3 times. It was happening all the time, and it still happens all the time. So there's no way that...
Right, but people with schizophrenia...
I think that.
But people with schizophrenia... well, I'm not putting you down on this, Chris. I'm just trying to get an understanding.
I studied psychology for 4 years.
They see these things, and it's normal to them, too, but they also understand that they're nuts. And I'm not saying that you are, but I'm just wondering. I would think... That's where my problem comes in with this is, if I was able to see these things... I would be questioning my sanity constantly of how the hell can I be seeing this? How do I know I'm not just really good at hallucinations? You know,
Dude, I think I can answer that for you, and I understand what you're saying. If I was to have these things happen to me now as an adult, yes, I would think I'm insane. But because as a child, you know, and you said 7, but I actually started having these experiences when I was 3 or 4 where I was consciously aware of it, but my parents told me some bizarre things happened when I was a baby and when I was born. So it goes back to my exact birth. But the thing is because I was conditioned, because I saw these things gradually, it became just normal for me. Because at the same time, I started going to school, started learning how to ride a bike, and everything else. So it was coming at me slowly. But if I was bombarded today, yeah, I think, oh my God, I've gone nuts. But I've been around it my whole life, so I could never ever even think that I was nuts or I was crazy.
Right, but that's where my point would be. I mean, I understand it's always been there, so you're not. But as you grow up and realize that not everybody else can see it, and not everybody else can sense it, then does it ever? And I ask these questions more for the people out there, Chris, that are listening, that are going through that. And there are a lot of children, there are a lot of teenagers, or a lot of young women that we've met at our events that, you know, they've talked to me, and I've referred them over to you, or I've referred them to one of the mediums at the event that go through this, and they feel like they're losing their mind because it's like something they've always known was there, and then they start to acknowledge it, and it comes steamrolling in, but then they sit there spending so much time questioning and trying to quantify in their own mind what they're actually experiencing. Is it real, or am I nuts?
Well, let me tell you this, and I'm gonna say this, and I might get some slack for this, but I really don't care. I studied psychology for 4 years, and psychology is based on theory. Someone else's predetermined decision, opinion, and idea. A lot of it cannot even begin to answer this stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of people are misdiagnosed. A lot of things that can't be understood by their so-called theory science. And remember, it is always developing and growing, but yet you have someone that has a certain disorder, they're put right in there because that's the only thing that explains it. Let me give you an example real quickly.
Sure.
My cousin just called me a few days ago, okay? Her daughter, 14 years old, was diagnosed with OCD, all right?
Yep.
But out of OCD, whoever understands obsessive-compulsive disorder, is that there's many different things to it. The only thing in that definition that she does is have intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts. But guess what? Those intrusive thoughts come true. She dreamt of 9/11. She dreamt of somebody knocking stuff off a shelf. They go into a store, and she goes, oh, my God, Mom, that's the man that I saw in my dream. He's going to knock all the stuff off the shelf. She's like, what are you talking about? All of a sudden, he knocks stuff off the shelf. She has these ESP visions, precognitions, and dreams that all come true. And there's many of them. But yet, the psychologist doesn't look at those, analyze those, document them to verify them later. It just says, you know what, you're having these thoughts, you don't know where they're coming from, it's OCD. That is wrong. That is so wrong, because what we are doing is we are preventing people in this world from growing and developing to who we truly are, which is a spiritual, wonderful entity. And I'll tell you what, if we all had these abilities, or were using these abilities, there wouldn't be war, there wouldn't be these other things going on, we wouldn't be attacking one another, we wouldn't be depressed, we wouldn't have all these other things happening, because we would understand that we're all connected. We can read each other, we can help each other, and it goes on and on and on and on. I think that we really need to start taking responsibility, and that not classifying people as crazy, as having a problem, or this and that. And people shouldn't feel ashamed and shouldn't be worried about this stuff, but really go to people that can help them and understand. I remember sitting down with a psychologist, because years ago I went to a psychologist, because I don't say I wanted to mess with them,
right.
you know, but I in a way I wanted to, because I knew these experiences were real, and there's nothing to do to change that. And surprisingly enough, during the regressions and everything, he came out and he says, you know what, you had these experiences, and it was good confirmation for me. But in the same sense, we had an interesting conversation dealing with multiple personality disorder. And I said to him, have you ever, in your cases of studying multiple personality disorder, ever discussed with these personalities their name, age, everything, and then actually did research to verify if this person existed at any time in the date, time, or place? He's like, well, no, we never thought of it because they just don't exist. They're made up. I said, how do you know that? I said, no, don't get me wrong. I believe people do have multiple personality disorder. I believe that they get messed up and they create this person and such and such. But I do believe also in possession, walk-ins, and that type of stuff. I have seen it. I have experienced it. So that easily would be labeled as multiple personality disorder. Mm-hmm. But I said to him, how do you know? He says, well, you know what? We really don't know. He goes, and that's very interesting that you said that. And I told him, I said, listen, you may or may not even take this advice. And I'm talking to a psychologist. I said, try it. Ask them what time period they're from. What year did they live? Where did they live? And just, if you have time, or have someone do research and find out that person existed. Because you never know. That could be another spirit or soul that is using that person as a vessel to communicate. The question is, what? I'm just saying, going back to what you were saying, is sometimes we misdiagnose. Now, there are mental disorders, yes, definitely. But I think that you can't classify something till you fully understand it on a physical level, which we're very limited because we're all based on theories, and we also look at a spiritual level. You have to look at both sides before you say somebody's nuts or before you say somebody has an ability.
Well, you understand, though, a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists don't have the time to go out and research to see if these people are...
I know that, but I think it's wrong to then put somebody away or to put somebody on medication, because the one problem is, too, is with some of this medication, my parents almost put me on Ritalin because I was very hyper as a kid, surprisingly, and I'm glad they didn't, because that may very well have stopped some of my abilities, may have halted the progression of these abilities and me coming in contact or connecting with whatever that is that allows me to do these things. And I think that happens. We know that if you're in a drug state, if you take Vicodin or you take something else, your reactions, your physical reactions, as well as your mental, are not as quick as if you're sharp and you're completely clean. So the same thing happens is if you're put on something, even if you're drinking or if you're on drugs or whatever, your abilities just aren't going to work. Mm-hmm. They're just not going to be there. And I think for people out there, like you were saying, parents and children, is the first thing is to overcome the fear and relax. But then try to understand it. Don't be afraid of it. And if you don't get advice or help from one person, try someone else until you fully understand what you're dealing with.
All right. Well, that's a good point. Again, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and finish up our last segment for this hour with Chris Fleming. You're listening to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. We'll be back with more right after this.
The New York Times has raved about the show. The Star Tribune says it's paranormally funny. And the Biscayne Bugle said, how could they put this crap on the air and live with themselves?
I am so sorry for everything that has happened. Because in spite of what Mike says now, it is my fault. Because it was my project. Everything had to be my way. And this is where we've ended up.
Stay tuned. There's more to come from the darkness on the edge of town.
For 58 years, Fate has consistently supplied its loyal readership with a broad array of true reports of the strange and unknown. Fate is a factual magazine containing articles by experts in all walks of life, and by others just like you who have something dynamic, significant, and truthful to say. Keep up with the latest on angels and miracles, psychic phenomena, ghosts, UFOs, archaeological hotspots, alternative science, and much, much more. To receive your free Fate magazine, call now at 1-800-728-2730 or visit our website at www.fatemag.com. That's 1-800-728-2730 or www.fatemag.com. What are you waiting for? Your fate awaits.
If you read Taps Paramag every month, you'll be able to tell the difference between the absurd
Could not go to work because Bigfoot stole my car.
and the creepy. Taps Paramag takes you where few would ever go on purpose. From exclusive interviews with the cast of The Ghost Hunters to the latest trends in technology in the field of the paranormal. To join our journey, order at tapsparamag.com.
Are you tired of reading about what couple in Hollywood is breaking up or divorcing? Have you ever wondered where you can find the news that covers the subjects that you are really interested in? I would like to invite you to visit supernaturalnews.com. Supernatural News uses the latest internet technology to search for the topics we know you will be interested in reading. News of the latest Bigfoot, UFO, or Loch Ness Monster sightings. Read about the latest conspiracy theories and urban legends. Supernatural News, where belief and reality merge.
Looks good at Hr.1. Roger.
Okay, each of you youngins take a gun, a beer, and some smoke.
Throttle circuit breakers in. We have separation. Inboard and outboards are on. We're coming forward with the side stick. Looks good. Roger. I've got a blowout. Neighbor 3. Get your pitch to 0. Pitch is out. I can't hold altitude. Correction. Alpha hold is off. Trip selectors emergency. Flight comm. I can't hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking.
Dave.
You bastard!
Dave Schrader, paranormal host.
A man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic
paranormal host. Dave Schrader
will be that man. Better than he was before.
What is it that makes you set
better, stronger, faster.
Run, Forrest, run! Run, Forrest!
Welcome back to the darkness on the edge of town with Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis.
Good evening and welcome back to the show. You're listening to Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio. We're live with you every Sunday night from 10 to midnight Central Time. If you can't listen to us live, please check out the replays of our show, which are available directly on our site at darknessradio.com/listen, or you can check them out at planetparanormal.com and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. You'll always have them automatically downloaded right to your laptop or to your desktop, and that way you can download it, MP3, DUBS, whatever the hell they call that, iPod. What you call that, dear newfangled iPod? You can check it out and listen to us and take us along with you on the road, and we hope you will do that. We're going to get back into the show. Our guest this evening is Chris Fleming, and Chris is going to be here with us for about the next 10 minutes. We're going to take a break and then come back after the top of the hour with more Chris Fleming. Tim's getting a little nervous over there. Thought we were going to change up. Just giving people a rundown of what's going on, Tim. Have a little faith in the man. Chris, going back into the sense here, and I want to ask you a couple more things about children, and then when we come back at the top of the hour, we'll start getting into how people can develop their own psychic abilities and get more in tune. You were giving some advice, first of all, that start listening to the children, don't automatically assume they're nuts. How do you differentiate that when science tells us it's a mental problem? How, as a parent, I have 6 children. I'm very concerned for my children if one of them starts acting really strangely and seeing things, and I wasn't privy to friends in the paranormal. My first inclination is to take them to a doctor and have them checked and then believe in what they're saying. How do we as a parent, even people like our listeners that like the paranormal but are still trying to balance the fact between science and science fiction here, how do we take care of our children so that we know? I mean, is there any kind of test? Is there anything that you can say, I know that if they know this or if they see this, that this is a real sign that they have some abilities?
Well, I think it's difficult in a couple of ways, too, is because as a parent, you're very busy, you have other things to worry about, and then also, you're supposed to be a role model for the child to where you're not supposed to be afraid and you're supposed to know everything because they look up to you. But we can't know everything, and that's the thing, and that's where it kind of like, well, let's have the doctor just say they're nuts or just the doctor just say there's something wrong with them. Now, don't get me wrong. As children, children have incredible imaginations. We're born that way because we are in the creative state. So they could imagine things. They have imaginary friends and this and that. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. But if there's something that is really terrifying the child, if there is something where you become kind of curious, like, they're having this imaginary friend around a lot, things are starting to move. And you start getting some type of physical evidence to support it, such as doors opening and closing. Things are missing, and the child swears he didn't take it, that type of stuff. You hear voices. And if the child continues over time to continue to have conversations with this child, you begin to question, okay, are they really playing, or is there actually someone really there? Now, you can't just rush in there and think it's a ghost. You have to be more responsible than that. So you have to actually pay attention to your child. You really need to do that. Now, I'm not saying you spy on the child, but I'm saying, put cameras up and little walkie-talkies, But seriously, you have to take some type of responsibility and say, okay, is my child seeing something that I'm not? And you have to remember, too, that when we come into this world as a baby, as a child, we're so new to this world that we've only been gone from the other side a short period of time, that we are still pretty connected to that other side. A lot of people say, well, why is a little baby always looking up and giggling and everything like it sees something? Well, there's a lot of stories that spirits and ghosts and loved ones that have moved on or whatever are hovering around the child and saying, oh, brand new baby, congratulations in making this crossover and becoming into your destiny and your path while you're here. And some children tend to talk about grandparents or loved ones that they've never met because they died before they were born. But yet when they're going through a photo album, they pick out, oh, this is the guy that I see. Well, that's your grandpa, and he died before you were born. Mm-hmm. They can teach us a lot. They really, really can. The one thing we have to remember is, in this physical realm, yes, their brain and their mind is kind of cramped. It doesn't know much. It's learning process. But they are a spiritual being just like we are. Just as wonderful, just as powerful, just as creative, just as knowledgeable. But at this moment, they are limited because in the physical body, it is limiting them with their physical movements, with their brain capacity, and they're having to start all over again. So we have to realize that it's not just a child that's there. It is a spiritual being that is just as intelligent as us that is going through this school, so to speak, in this physical realm. So when we begin to understand that, we can kind of step away from rushing into the doctor or assuming it's a ghost and just watch the child. What does it do that was different than what you did? What is it that's happening or coinciding with what it's saying or talking about? If there is something, then you want to look at the possibility that there is a ghost or spirit or the child does have some type of ability. But still, take it to the doctor just to find out for sure, because you never know. I can't sit here and talk about curing anything or whatever. You have to take it to the doctor to find out there could be something wrong. But if it continues and what the doctor's saying and doing isn't helping, then you have to look at other possibilities.
Well, I have, like I said, I'm just concerned because there are so many parents that seem so perplexed by this. Mm-hmm. Do you think, and we've only got 3 minutes till the top of the hour here, or 2 minutes.
Got it.
What do you think? Is there more of this happening now? Are more kids being born with this ability? It seems like there's so many parents dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
Or is it just that now people are feeling more free to talk about it?
There's 3 things then. You just added the third thing. One thing is that we're becoming more consciously aware of it. More people are coming out and talking about it. Years ago, people just would not talk about it. You're crazy. People are going to think we're nuts. Now, because of the media, TV shows, radio shows like yourself, and stuff like that, that people are becoming aware of this stuff. They're recognizing these things and coming forward. The second thing is there's a lot going on in this world, and we're going through a conscious shift. Now, we talk about evolution. We really can't evolve anymore as a physical being. We've probably reached our peak. So we have to evolve spiritually, and that is the next spiritual evolution, is to become more conscious in using these abilities, becoming aware of them. God only knows how long it's going to take till we fully accept it, but we are beginning to reach that little peak where we are starting to have things happen more and more frequently because we are being pushed to start causing ourselves to evolve spiritually. And I think that's why you're seeing more of this happen. So that's why there's more people getting involved in this type of field, is because they need to be there to help people and educate people to understand this and develop it even further.
All right, that's fair enough. We're going to go in a minute here, take our top of the hour break. I do want to make a quick mention for those of you that are interested. Again, Chris does appear at our events, but he's also going to be out at the Real Deal 2007 South Coast Paranormal Convention, which will take place Friday and Saturday, July 20th through the 21st in the very haunted Glen Tavern Inn in Santa Paula, California. Speakers will be Chris Fleming, Patrick Burns, Richard Sennett, Chad and Adrian from Terranormal. I'll be there. I'll be doing a talk as well, plus many, many more speakers. There's also going to be workshops on tarot and demonology, a screening of the movie Conjure. There's going to be just a plethora of great opportunities, and also an investigation, an all-night, all-access investigation of the Glen Tavern Inn. For more information, go to woodwardpsychic.com. That's woodwardpsychic.com. You'll be able to see all of us there. We'll be back with more of Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Stick with us. We'll be back, and we'll be talking more about developing your abilities, and we'll be taking live questions from the chat room and emails. You can send those questions in to tim@darknessradio.com, and we'll address them to Chris as we come back for the second hour. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back with more right after this.